Welcome back. I'm Sam and this is babyREADY. And we've talked a lot through the last several posts about the labor process. And we've finally gotten to the point where now you have your baby and your baby's in your arms. But now we need to talk about the nitty-gritty stuff. Like, what do you actually need for this child? And what kinds of things are simply nice to haves? There are tons and tons of nice to have items. Don't get me wrong, I wanted them all as well. But when we're talking about working from a budget, when we're talking about parents who don't have a lot of money to spend on the extra things, or people who are just trying to be respectful of their space on this planet and not get the things that they don't necessarily need, then this is my pared down list of 10 items you need to have when you have a new baby. That said, this list does not include bottles or formula, because when we're talking about paring down a list, my thought is these are the things to help with caring for baby. But obviously feeding your baby is paramount. If you're not planning to feed from your body, but instead you're planning to feed using another means, then you necessarily need to have all those items in preparation for when baby arrives. However, not all of us know what our expectations or plans are. Some of us are thinking that we're going to chest or body feed, but we don't know how that's going to unfold for us. For those of you who have every intention of getting that process started to the very best of your abilities, then it is my recommendation that you don't have any bottles or formula in the house in advance of the baby's arrival. I know that may go against a lot of what other people will tell you, but the challenge is at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you are exhausted and really wish you were sleeping, when the baby is awake and you really wish they would go to sleep, then it can be very difficult to be able to focus to latch the baby to your body. And in that time, it can be easy to feel like you just turn over, grab the bottle and feed that to your baby. And then the challenge is the differences between how baby latches on the human body and latches on an artificial nipple. And that can be difficult for babies to go back and forth between. And so I'm not ever going to tell you that you shouldn't feed your baby by another means, but I am going to say that if it is your absolute intention to do your level best to ensure that baby can body feed from you, then I would really encourage you to not have bottles present at the time that baby's born. So some of the things that I think that you necessarily need to make sure you have for your baby before the baby arrives are clothes. I typically talk about clothes being something that we might want to look at being in natural fibers, because it is easier for us to regulate baby's body temperature using clothes that are made from natural fibers. When we get into synthetic fibers like rayons and polyesters and things like that, it's very easy for baby not to be adequately warmed if they need to be, or adequately cooled if they need to be, depending on the climate and the time of year that you're having your baby. So I look at things like bamboo and cotton, and they don't have to be organic. I just simply mean 100% bamboo, 100% cotton, those kinds of things, because they'll wash up really well. They dry super easily, and they will keep your baby's body temperature regulated better. Remember, when we're dressing baby, we put one more layer on than we would be comfortable wearing ourselves. So if we're happy in our house, just dress the way we are, then if we have our baby covered from feet to shoulders or neck, then that's what they need. But maybe put an undershirt on if it is a cool day, or if it's the middle of winter where you are. Babies don't need to wear hats unless they're outside in the winter time. That's something that grandparents often disagree with me about, but we don't want to cover their feet and their heads at all times, because that doesn't give them an opportunity to release the extra heat that they have. If you put your hand on the back of your baby's neck and get a feel, that will give you an idea as to whether they're too warm, too cool, or just right. They don't need a whole lot of clothes in the first little while, and this list I'm talking about is really just sort of covering you for the first 6 weeks or so. Babies aren't going to move a lot, they're not going to do a lot, they're certainly not going to play a lot, so you don't need toys, but they will need clothes, and they're going to need clothes to come home in if you are bringing your baby home from a birthing center or a hospital. Cloths are a great idea. And I talk about, I mean, we can just use regular face cloths that everybody uses, but the ones that I like are the little baby face cloths. And they're small, they're usually a thinner material. Often you'll get them in a package that has a blue one, a white one, a green one, a red one, and a pink one, or a yellow, or something like that. What I typically did was I took all of the ones that were of rainbowy color and put them aside, and those were for diaper changes. So I always did all my diaper changes with cloths instead of wipes, because then I knew I was using warm water, and I was just using water on their bottoms, and I wasn't putting any chemicals on them or anything else, anything drying the skin out by using wipes. So then I was keeping the bacterial exposure on their bottoms to a lower level. So I would use those ones, and then I would save all of the white ones, the ones with the little pictures of animals or teddy bears or whatever on them. Those ones I would set aside, and those would be all for bath time, so that I knew when I was washing a face, I wasn't washing their face with the same cloth I've been cleaning their bottom with. So that was pretty easy for me. So if we're going to talk about cloths, and if we've been talking about cloths for diaper changes, then I guess the next thing on the list should probably be diapers. And there are all kinds of diapers on the market. You're not going to have me arguing with you about what kind you should use, but I am going to encourage you to be aware of the products that you're using. Paper diapers or disposable diapers, if they are from many of the big name companies, have silica gel in them, and silica against the skin when it comes through the diaper and sits on your baby's skin is not a healthy item to have on your body. They can also get extra hot and keep your baby's genitals very, very warm, which isn't necessarily always healthy for their reproductive health in the future. I know you don't want to think about your baby having babies at some point, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. If you're using paper or disposable diapers, you may want to consider using unbleached diapers. Seventh Generation does some. There's lots of different brand names that do them. Or you may want to consider changing your baby's diaper very frequently, so that every time they pee, every time they soil their diaper, you're changing that diaper so that there is no opportunity for the chemicals and items in that synthetic diaper to come onto their skin and affect their body. Cloth diapers come in a variety of shapes and sizes. There are pre-folds that you just fold and place against baby and then put a cover over top. There are some that are shaped like diapers, and depending on how you fold them and snap them or Velcro them, they fit a variety of sizes, so you maybe only have to buy a few. It's worth investigating all of it, and there are no absolutes. I think the biggest thing that you're going to find with parenting is that a lot of people have an absolute kind of mentality. We either breastfeed, chest feed, body feed, or we bottle feed with artificial baby milk. Why can't you do both? Why can't you have some of your feeds being done by someone else using a different milk necessarily? But we always talk in absolutes. We either cloth diaper or we paper diaper. Why can't it be both? When you're home, why can't it be cloth? And when you're out, why can't it be disposable or paper? We either co-sleep or we crib sleep. Why can't it be both if we're doing things safely? So I need you to remember that the question that I get most often from new parents is, am I doing this right? Because it feels like everyone's telling me I'm doing this wrong. At the end of the day, no one, I need you to hear this very clearly, no one on this planet will love this baby more than you do. Not grandparents, not friends, not aunts and uncles, not siblings. No one will love this child like you do, and no one will want to make sure that this baby is safe and well cared for more than you do. So don't let anyone ever make you feel less than for how you're parenting your child, as long as you are parenting your child from your heart. That means that you and your partner may need to spend time sitting down and having some really deep, truly meaningful conversations about how you want this baby to be raised, and then stick to your guns. If other people really have it all figured out, then it's time for them to have another baby, because apparently they're going to do it perfectly. But don't let anyone wear you down. Never, ever let anyone wear you down. Anyway, rant done. We've got clothes, we've got cloths, we've got diapers. Receiving blankets are another really great tool. I usually just say get a 1 by 1 meter square of flannel, and if you're a sewer at all, turn it and sew the corners a little bit or bind the corners a little bit. And there you go, you've got this big piece of cloth that you can wrap around your baby to keep them warm. You can use in a pinch as a diaper if you need to. I may be speaking from experience about that one. It gives you somewhere to lay your baby down that smells familiar if you happen to be out somewhere and they're having a nap, all kinds of things. So receiving blankets are a wonderful resource, and they give you the opportunity to put something over your shoulder if your baby's going to throw up a little bit, and some babies do. So try that. You need a car seat for your baby. And I encourage you strongly to not only watch the YouTube videos about installing that car seat and go by brand, watch the video that is appropriate for the brand that you've purchased, but it's important to get in the seat to install it, or get in the base of the seat to install it. If you haven't got in the base of the seat to install it, it's probably not in properly. And then have your seat inspected. Have it inspected by someone who is a certified child restraint technician. And that isn't all police officers, it isn't all firefighters. While some of them do it, they have been overwhelmed with people coming to their stations asking for the seats to be checked, and not everyone has someone on site who's certified to do that. So either call your local station and see, or find out online where you can have your seat inspected. The seat needs to go for an infant with the straps on the shoulders, at or below the shoulders, coming across the shoulders. The chest clip needs to do up at the armpits. It comes flat across their belly. The leg pieces come over, and it gets done up so all the straps lay flat on your baby. You should be able to get one finger under each strap, but if you can get two, it's too loose. And the only thing that goes in your baby's car seat is your baby. They can be dressed for the weather, so you can have them in a sweater and pants and socks and boots and a little hat and mitts if you want, but no thick winter coats and no bundle me bags. Nothing that goes behind your baby's body with any kind of thickness or cushioning in it. I know that you want to keep your baby warm, so dress them, but once they're in the seat and they're strapped in, you can put their coat on backwards on the front of them so that keeps their trunk and their arms warm. Put blankets over them, but just avoid wrapping their face, obviously. Or you can put one of those shower cap style over top. But the others will not keep your baby safe, and in a collision, that puts your baby at risk of becoming a projectile. So please, please exercise caution when you're putting your baby in the seat. Make sure they're in tight enough, and make sure that nothing is there other than the baby, between the baby and the seat. You're going to need a thermometer for your baby. You're going to need a thermometer to take your baby's temperature, and the only thermometer that is really and truly effective for a child under the age of 2 is a digital rectal thermometer. Ear thermometers, forehead thermometers are great once they get a little older. And if your baby has a temperature of 98 degrees or higher, and they're under 3 months of age, they need to be seen immediately by an emergency room physician. In the event that your baby has a temperature, then the other item that you need to have on your list before your baby's even born, so that you're not racing to get it at the last minute, is infant acetaminophen. It can be Tylenol, it can be Equate, it can be Life Brand. It doesn't matter what brand it is, but make sure it's for infants. Infants should not necessarily be getting ibuprofen as a fever reducer when they're very, very young. So do stick with the infant acetaminophen. And my hope for you is that you never crack the seal on that bottle. But I would rather you have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You need somewhere for your baby to sleep, whether it's sleeping in a crib in another room, whether it's sleeping in the crib in the same room as you, whether it's sleeping in the unit that you've attached to the side of your bed, whether it's sleeping in the top of a playpen or in a bassinet. It doesn't matter as long as the baby's sleep environment is safe. And by safe, I mean nothing around the baby. The only thing that is safe to put with your baby when they're sleeping, especially in a crib and unattended, is the baby dressed for sleep on a fitted mattress. No bumper pads, no pillows, no stuffed animals, no mobiles, nothing else in the crib, because all of it puts your baby at risk. And I can't tell you why these items are sold other than that people will buy them. But take bumper pads, for instance. They go around the outside of the baby's crib and they look fantastic. And our expectation is that they prevent our babies from banging their heads. But quite frankly, our babies aren't going to be rolling for a long time. They're not going to be moving much at all. And the challenge is that air can become stagnant below the line of the bumper pad, prohibiting your baby from getting enough fresh air while they're sleeping. That includes the bumper pads that are mesh. There just isn't big enough holes in it to allow for adequate airflow. When you're looking at bassinets, try the ones with the lower sides on it so that there's better airflow for baby. And babies, if they're in a bassinet or in a pack and play, should always be in the same room as their parent while they're sleeping. Emery boards. Your baby is going to be born with fingernails that are like razor blades. They come out very, very sharp, and very quickly your baby will learn to scratch themselves, not intentionally. The challenge is that the nail bed that for us as adults generally grows back behind the fingernail, the nail bed grows out with the nail when babies are very little and firstborn. So emery boards are easier to file because if you bite and tear or you clip, it's very easy to clip the quick or clip the skin, and nobody wants to do that. I encourage you to simply file the nails instead of putting mittens over your baby's head, because you probably remember that ultrasound you had, and they have a picture of the baby. They've given you a picture of the baby with the baby's hands up beside their head. Their baby uses their hands very often to protect and soothe themselves. So when we put mittens on them, we change the sense of smell of the baby's hands so that babies don't identify them as their hands so much. And so it can be more difficult to keep babies settled and soothed. That's often why babies don't like to be swaddled with their arms down. I know a good number of practitioners will tell you that the babies love to be swaddled. All babies love to be swaddled and shushed. But in my experience, working with thousands of different babies over the years, there are a good percentage of babies who don't like to be swaddled because they don't like their arms restricted. They need their hands to be able to be accessible to them, especially while they're sleeping, so that they can feel safe. Last but not least on the list is a first aid kit. You need to be able to keep your baby's environment safe, and you will. However, the first time your child trips and falls, the first time your baby ends up bleeding, you're going to be so wrapped up in fear and worry about the well-being of your child that going through the house to figure out where the peroxide or the bandages or the polysporin or whatever it is happens to be so that you can make your baby cleaned up and well again, that's going to be out of your head. So make sure you've got a first aid kit, that you've checked expiry dates, because you probably have the makings of most first aid kits already. Just make sure that you've checked expiry dates and you know where it is in the event that you need it, so that you're not frantically looking at that time when you're trying to soothe your child and find the makings of your first aid kit. So the list, as I say, is particularly short. There isn't a lot that you need. You don't need a baby bathtub. Most babies don't like baby bathtubs, quite frankly. Put a couple of inches of water in the bottom of the bathtub that you've already got, climb in the bath with your baby, put a face cloth on each hand, and put your baby in the water. As long as their ears and face are out of the water, the rest of them will float around and they'll be super happy. But the baby bathtubs usually keep them pretty cold because they're not all submerged all at once. And they don't know yet that they're going to be getting warm again soon. You don't need a special laundry soap or detergent or fabric softener for your baby's clothes. What we did was we went with an environmentally responsible laundry soap that we washed all of our clothes in together so that we didn't have to separate baby's clothes from other people's clothes in the house. It was tended to be mildly scented because babies don't like perfumes and heavy scents of things because it affects their ability to identify. The only sense that they can truly count on is their olfactory sense or their sense of smell when they're first born. So So by putting them in an environment where things are heavily fragranced, it can affect them, and it can make them more grumpy. You can sometimes see babies pulling away from somebody who picks them up, who has a lot of perfume on, that kind of thing. They may be restless, that type of thing. So we just went with something very mildly scented or unscented, typically was actually what we did. And then we just laundered everybody's stuff all together. That way, if baby was chewing on my clothes, I didn't have to worry about it because my clothes were washed with the same kind of stuff their clothes were. In fact, there are a significant percentage of products that are on the market right now that have pictures of babies on the outside of the product. But on the back of that same item, it will tell you that there's a warning not to use that item on anyone under the age of 3 years. So be very aware of the marketing campaigns that are out there. And they're clever campaigns. Please don't get me wrong. I have no issue. If you want to use some of these products, by all means do that. But do it with your eyes wide open. Know what you're getting into, know what you're purchasing, and know that some products that have pictures of babies on the front are not safe for babies. You don't need special soap for babies' bodies. A plain bar of soap that's not particularly strongly fragranced, just all your baby needs, maybe once a week. They're not going to be moving around a lot, so they don't need you to be washing them with shampoo and conditioner and body wash or soap on a daily basis because they haven't been doing anything. All that's going to do is dry their skin out. Maybe once a week, throw some soap on there, but a plain bar of soap, truthfully, is the best gift you can give your baby. None of these fragranced baby products that are out there. The No Tears products generally have formaldehyde and Novocaine in them. And that's not something that you necessarily want to put on your baby anyway. So be conscious, be aware, but be simplistic. There's so little that your baby actually needs. There's so much that's been marketed to you for your baby. And some of it you'll want to buy, but a lot of it you don't need to. And there are very few products that you can't get secondhand. The car seat's probably the only thing that I would say I really strongly encourage you to make sure that you get brand new. You then know the history of it completely, because a car seat falling off of a coffee table onto the floor, if it hits the wrong way, can create a hairline fracture in it that renders that seat unable to be safe or keep your baby safe in a collision. And if you don't know that history because someone's forgotten about it before they gave you the seat, then that's frightening. So buy a seat brand new. Always buy your seat brand new. Make sure it's got all the labels on it that it needs to have. Know that if you're in Canada and you bring a seat home from the US, your seat does not have any warranty or insurance if there's a collision. You need to buy a seat with a Canadian safety seal on it, and it'll have a little leaf and a number in the middle. Make sure your seat's inspected. Okay, so what's our list look like? We've got clothes, we've got cloths, we have receiving blankets, we have car seat, we have diapers, we've got somewhere to sleep, we have a thermometer, we have infant acetaminophen, we have emery boards, and we have a first aid kit. And those are your 10 items. That's all you need. Everything else is just extras. And it's amazing to have your extras. I loved my sling. I carried both of my children in a sling, and I almost never used a stroller. But some parents swear by their stroller, and that's okay because you parent your way, I parent mine, and we're both right for our families. So find the things that work for you, leave the rest behind, and if anyone has an opinion that you aren't comfortable with, then tell them that they are entitled to their opinion, and you'll take what they say under advisement, but smile and walk away. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. Thanks.